Welcome to the Send More Offers Real Estate Show with Brandon Barnes, showing you how to do wholesaling deals consistently without having to go on seller appointments. Learn the key tips and strategies that Brandon's students use to find deeply discounted properties that are pennies on the dollar, all while avoiding wear and tear on their vehicle, body, and freedom. Whether you're looking for your first deal or your next deal, it's time to send more offers with your host, Brandon Barnes.
Hey, welcome to the show, Mike. How's it going?
Good, man. Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited. And like we were talking pre-show, I've used one of your former presentations on disposition specifically to train my VAs over the years. I just thought it was incredible. And you really gave a good breakdown of like how to run this business, like a business, like it should be, instead of just, selling deals. So I can't wait for you to give that value to the listeners today. What's going on in your world? What's going on in your business? How are you guys doing deals these days?
Yeah, it's pretty exciting, actually. We went through COVID and a lot of people struggled. We actually had our best year ever during the first year of COVID. So we were rolling along. We were a little bit kind of fat, a little bit in terms of like personnel and in some of the things we were doing. We weren't as efficient as we could be. We had a period originally when we started the company of high growth, and then we got a little bit sloppy and lazy. COVID hit. We had to get real smart, kind of lean down a little bit, look at our marketing, what was working, what wasn't, and we got real profitable. It wasn't our highest revenue year. It was our highest profit year, which is really all we should care about, right? Like, what are you actually bringing home? So
exactly,
had a great year, and then we kind of like rode that out. And when I say rode it out, we were purposely staying lean, and we did that up until last year. And we decided last year it was time for us to kind of get back and try to go into growth mode a little bit again. And we had hired a COO twice previously in our company, and both times were colossal failures, just really, really didn't work out. And so we kind of swore we would never do that again. And then, of course, until the right person comes along. And my partner had this acquaintance, and he said, there was a company that went under, but she was running it, but it went under for personal reasons, the owner or whatever. She's available. Do we want to talk to her? And I was like, no, we don't want to talk to her because we said we're not going to do this. And he's like, I know, but maybe we should at least just talk to her. I said, okay. So we talked to her. Anyways, long story short, I won't drag it out. We hired her last December. So that's to answer your question, what's new? We just brought in a COO in December of last year. Cautiously optimistic. It's going great. She's great. No red flags. But I tend to think until someone's there for a year, she's still probationary to me a little bit. So we're kind of waiting and seeing, but everything's going great. We raised our expectations for revenue by 50%, and we're on track to hit that. So that's exciting. Margins are up. We've made a couple of new hires inside of the business. So it's like that I kind of think of us as like this bear that was hibernating for a few years after COVID, and we just woke up again and we're starting to get hungry and go out there and look for food. So we're starting to get back in that mode, which is exciting. And we were talking before we jumped on here. We're wholesalers. That's just what we are and who we are and kind of how we identify. But we're starting to do some other stuff that we can talk about if you'd like later on. So yeah, we've got some new strategies and things that we're excited about.
Yeah, awesome. And just as a quick follow-up, is that hire, that COO, and I ask this question because I know there's a lot of investors that want to get to that space where they can be out of the operator seat and have one person, moving and managing the acquisitions team and the disposition team and the transaction coordination and the data. Everybody wants that, but it's tough to find. Did you go out and find this individual locally? Are they U.S. based or are they an assistant overseas?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, she kind of fell into our lap, but she is U.S. based, but she's not local. She lives in California. My business is in Michigan. Isn't an issue. It's not an issue at all. So I don't think that's a problem. I don't think they have to be local to you necessarily. I mean, our whole team isn't local. Like,
right.
Me and my partner live local, and my dispo guy lives local. Everyone else is virtual. So it works totally fine. I mean, in a perfect world, everyone's local and we get together once a month and we do some team building stuff. But it works just fine the way it is. And like you said, it's a good point. It's hard to find this person. It feels almost impossible. But what I hate is when I talk to people and they say, oh, wholesaling. Yeah. I don't want to do wholesaling. It's, it's like such a grind. It's so active. And it's like, it's only active if you run it actively. Like I was telling you before we logged in here, I'm not in the day-to-day of my business. Like if you said, name 3 properties you have under contract, I don't know that I could. I know that I could, right? I don't know because I don't see them. And so my business is very passive. I spend about an hour and a half to 2 hours a week actually working in my business to some capacity. And an hour of that hour and a half is a meeting that I'm in, right? So it's not even like I'm in the meeting, but I'm not necessarily working. So yeah, it's pretty hands off for me at this point. We'll hit 1.5 million in gross profits this year. So yeah, it can be passive. And it was that way before we hired the COO, but she's helping us ramp it up. And what she's great at, that me and my partner are bad at, a lot of entrepreneurs are bad at, is the day-to-day, the details and the oversight and the management of all the people, right? Watching all the numbers and making sure everyone's making their follow-up calls and all this, putting stuff in the CRM. That to me, that's torture, having to watch all that stuff. So having somebody in the company that's doing it makes me sleep better at night.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I want to get to this, but I'll get to this later. I just interviewed someone that was, it was a little bit arrogant, I'll say, but he was talking about, hey, you guys that are wholesaling, if you're doing, you make good money, keep doing it, but you gotta gross up and scale up, start to have real passive income. But I've heard, and I know, from personal experience and working with others that you can, to your point, run a wholesale operation passively and have that kicking off cash. And my question for you, which, maybe we can get to in a bit is, what is then next for you? Do you go into other asset classes? Are you looking at now using your time differently to do different types of investing now once you have this business, this wholesale operation passive?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Touch on that real quick.
So yeah. Inside of my business, that I kind of said it a second ago, we have a secondary strategy that we have implemented that I don't know if this, by the way, you've made me really curious. Now I have to go back and listen and find out who this arrogant person was, because it's a good teaser for your podcast.
Talk about it. Right?
I want to go back. Yeah. Afterward, you can tell me which one to listen to. A lot of people have that opinion though. A lot of people, because I think that the industry or the gurus or whatever, the bigger pockets of the world have positioned wholesaling to be a very beginner strategy, something that you do. And by the way, I'm going to say this may not be, you probably agree with me, but a lot of people may not. Wholesaling, to me, if you just put it side by side, wholesaling is a harder business than flipping. It just is. It just is. Because to be good at wholesaling, and I don't mean like a hobbyist or someone who's just sort of like doing it poorly, but to do it well, you have to know and be able to get in the head of and have the same level of expertise as a house flipper if you want to sell to them effectively. And you have to be in the head and have the same level of expertise as a landlord if you want to sell properties to those folks, right? If you want to do it right. So you have to sort of know all the game to be a good wholesaler, right? And people really give wholesaling a bad positioning in the mindset of people because it's not a beginner's thing. But getting back to what I'm doing. And so what we have seen, even in my business and people who have been doing this a long time, successful, there's good months and bad months, right? And somebody says, oh, I made $1 million. I average $100,000 a month. Not every month, right? Some months might be 150 and other months are 50. And some months might be zero and then they blow it up and have 200,000 a month, right? It's an average. So in order for us to sort of manage the roller coaster or the ups and downs, and by the way, when you're a wholesaler and you're sending out marketing, for example, and there's an election cycle or there's a war that breaks out somewhere in the world, like all that stuff can affect your mail. It can affect how people think about what they want to do in their life and sell or not sell. And so things can just happen no matter even if you're dialed in. And so what we decided was both me and my partner individually have had rentals over the years. And rentals can be great. My experience wasn't that great. And some of it was my fault. Lessons learned. I bought the wrong houses, maybe didn't do enough renovation, all that. But what we decided, we met a guy in Texas. We both met him and he's got a model that we really, really liked. And so what we started doing with the leads that we have coming in, we're probably 60-40 wholesale to this other strategy, which in Michigan, we call them land contracts. So what we're doing is we're getting all these deals, we're signing them. Some of them are wholesaling. Some of them, we're taking them down ourselves. We're buying them. We're going and raising capital. We're buying the property. We're either doing some little bit of renovation or sometimes no renovation because they're already very functional and clean and there's no issues. They're just dated, right? And so we'll take that property that we bought, for $100,000 that has an ARV of 175 and it has like a current value. If you don't do anything to it on the open market on the MLS, we could probably sell for 130, 140 all day long, right? So we'll take that property. It's grandma's house, clean. Grandma kept it clean all these years, but she just hasn't updated it since the 80s or 90s, right? We'll take that house and sell it as is. We got it for 100. We'll sell it for, let's just say 140. It has an ARV of 175. So there's some equity there potentially for the person. And we'll sell it on terms, right? And there's a little bit of arbitrage there with the interest rates that we charge on terms versus what we're paying our investors. And so we're getting the cash flow, we're getting some of that interest arbitrage. And for us, there's no maintenance. There's no calls that there's a leaky faucet, the roof has to be replaced or any of this stuff. The taxes went up, but we lose the write-off, right? We lose some of the tax advantages. We know that. We've taken that into account. But that's sort of like, to answer the arrogant guy, like that's sort of that's our passive component to the business that we're running. It's not apartments. I get it. Syndication is probably what he was talking about. But
yes,
this is the passive part. So the beauty of it is we have these assets. We don't own them anymore because we sell them on terms, but we're getting this cash flow. So as the roller coaster ride of real estate and wholesaling goes, we don't have like these super high highs and these super low lows. We have high highs and then we have like just a little dip, right? Because that passive income now is starting to build. So we have this every month. We can pay our people, we can pay our marketing, we can pay ourselves without even touching the wholesaling money, right? And then the wholesaling income is sort of on top of all that as profit.
Love it. Love it. And I just want to make sure that it's clear for the listener, like that arbitrage is just, the difference, right, between what you're charging and what you're collecting. So that difference that you're making, that's what goes to you. So, it's even better that, when you're going and outright purchasing these properties, you're, raising capital, right, on better terms than what you're selling it for, and, collecting that check. So I love it. What is about the average, difference that you're making there on these types of deals? And I say that with the backdrop of, when you're doing terms deals, typically people want to make at least, $300, $400 a month per property. Like, are you shooting for that, or does it get a little larger when you're selling it on terms?
It's probably in that range, but the key here, though, I didn't mention this. The key is when we do a wholesale deal, right? For the wholesalers out there listening, you assign the property, you get an assignment fee, right? Let's just say, for the sake of argument, the assignment fee is $10,000 on average. Probably more for some people, maybe about that for other people. $10,000. So when we do these land contract or these owner finance deals that I was talking about, we collect a down payment that is 10% of the price, the value that we're selling it for, or $10,000, whatever's more. And so we sort of have this built in, of doing air quotes, an assignment fee. And so that's how, this isn't the question you ask, but it's important. And I'll get to the question you ask. It's important that when you have like dispositions folks who are paid on commission, you have acquisitions paid on commission. Acquisitions person doesn't want to hear about some $300 a month that you're going to make. He wants to know, what am I making right now? And so we can take that down payment and we treat it like an assignment fee. That's how we pay our people, right? Okay, so that was important to note. And then your question was, what's the range? Yeah, I mean, we're probably making more than we would on a rental in Michigan. A rental in Michigan, people shoot anywhere between $1 and $300,000 or $1 and $300 per month, cash flow. Like that's the rent, that's what they're making, not the rent, but that's the cash flow. Right. On these, we're probably in the 3 to 5.5, maybe something like that. So it is a slight bump, right? It's slightly more. And you mentioned the arbitrage of the interest rate. That's true. There's also, for example, we might buy it for 100 and we're paying 6% interest on it. We sell it for 140 at 10% interest, for example, right? Mm-hmm. So there's an arbitrage there with the interest and not with the sale price, right? Because we're selling it for more at a higher rate. And so, but this model of ours only works really well in a certain price point. Once you get below that price point, it doesn't really work. And once you get above that price point, it doesn't really work. And in Michigan, for us, so the way that we determine what we're going to sell it for, it has more to do with the average rent in that neighborhood than it does the price of the house. So we're selling it to people a lot like a car salesman sells cars. They don't say, how much do you want to spend total on a car? They say, how much can you afford every month? Right? And so if we can sell someone a property for $1,500, their payments with taxes and insurance and all that will be $1,500, or they could rent the house next door for $1,500. Would you rather be an owner or a renter? The cost is the same to you, right? And it's a no-brainer for most people. And so that's how we're determining. So it only works at a certain price point for us.
Love it. And, I want to break down how you guys do deals, but I'll save that because I think that's going to be very valuable for the listener on just a regular wholesale transaction. But while we're here and we're talking about this, there's that whole other side of doing creative deals, the dispositions on a creative deal and finding these tenant buyers. That's a whole nother process that the average wholesaler probably hasn't done before. So just walk us through how you always are able to have somebody ready to come in and put in that down payment, just so that they understand the mechanics of, I got this property, got it under contract, I'm buying it on terms and I'm selling it on terms. How do I sell it on terms? Yeah,
it's a good question. And part of the answer is going to blow the mind of your listeners. It won't blow your mind because you watched my talk that you said you've used with your dispo people.
Yeah.
And so what we do is the main strategy or the big the 10,000 foot answer on this is the idea is to build a Facebook group of people who are looking for these kind of deals. And the way we do that is we buy the property where we put it under contract, right? We buy it and we put signs in the yard, like bandit signs basically, that say, hey, this property is for sale, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, call this number if you're interested. And we drive people to a number that gives them information about how to get onto our Facebook group. And so we're building this community of people who are actively looking or know someone who's actively looking, right? So that's one way. And then so when we put it this way, when we get a deal that is going to be a owner finance deal that we're going to put out, we have people lined up who want it immediately. Like the sales process gets so easy. Now, another way that we drive people into this community, into this group is, and this is where I'm going to blow your folks who are listening, I'm going to blow their mind, but you'll know what I'm talking about, Brandon, is we have taken steps to make it possible for us to list properties that we don't even own yet on the MLS. And so right when we get it under contract, we start marketing this as a land contract deal on the MLS. And so that starts driving in initial interest. And we have now realtors who have their own list of people who are looking for owner finance deals that when we put this out, like they're bringing us people constantly, right? But we're always, because we run a business and we're not running a lemonade stand at the bottom of our driveway, we're always looking to maximize every single deal in every way that we can, right? We want to squeeze all the juice from this rock every single time. So the idea is to eventually we sort of want to get the realtors out of the mix because we're paying them, right? So we want to get them out of the mix so that everybody we sell to, we have found them. There are people and we're not paying any commissions to anybody. So we're driving everyone to this community and we're creating this thing where when we put a property into that Facebook group, gone.
Love it. Well, you kind of blew my mind as well, because I knew from, before that you sell your properties on the MLS, but I didn't know that you were selling on terms on the MLS. I don't think I've come across the MLS listing here locally in Atlanta, Georgia, that had a terms offer. But I guess it's possible you guys are out there making it work.
Oh, it's great. It's probably making our list grow faster than the signs, right? The signs are very sort of organic and it's hard to scale. We put it on the MLS and by the way, a lot of realtors will call about it because they're not looking at the notes and they're like, think it's for sale. And then we'll tell them it's just for sale on terms. And so, but still we're getting a lot of people in our pipeline from the MLS. It's a great lead source for these folks. But we're trying to build our own thing, so we're not paying all these commissions. But we'll probably always have some aspect of realtors bringing us people for sure, and that's fine.
And just a quick question: how does the realtor get paid? Are they getting a commission off of the down payment from the tenant buyer, or?
Yeah. So we'll raise the down payment requirements on a property that where a realtor brings it to us. We'll raise that requirement.
So they get their commission off.
Yeah, we have a policy. You probably saw this in the video. But we have a policy. We don't peel off our profits for people. If somebody's going to partner with us or with a realtor, it's like, put your commissions on top of whatever, right? So we are pretty adamant about what our profits need to be and what our targets are. And if we keep throwing our profits around to incentivize people, we miss our goals, right? So we always just say the prices goes up if we have to work with a partner.
Love it. Good stuff. And, having this as an outlet, I mean, I'm sure that's great. But, building this community is awesome because, there's so much that you can do within that group, and always having those tenant buyers ready. That's going to be a quick and easy way to get things going. I want to shift back, I guess, to just traditionally how you guys are going out and finding these leads and finding these deals. Is your market, is your marketing focused primarily on your core home market? Are you mainly in Michigan? Is that where you're doing all your deals, or do you go outside of your local market?
Yeah, we're in Michigan exclusively. We have gone outside of Michigan. We've been in Nebraska, kind of oddly, and we've also been we were in Florida, Orlando for a little while, and it was okay. But what we realized was we were working way harder to get a deal in these other markets, just dealing with boots on the ground issues, inconsistencies, not knowing the market as well. And, a few years back, we hired a marketing manager, somebody who's like a high level, like a C-suite level marketer, somebody really good. And he came in and he's not here now, just didn't work. But one thing he did do was really analyze, like, what does it take to get a deal here? What's it costing you? Like, what's the profit? And he made us realize we just weren't efficient outside of our market. We weren't doing as good a job. And he's like, why don't we take those dollars and that energy? And we're in a market where there's like, we live in Metro Detroit. That's our market. We don't do deals in the city of Detroit for a number of reasons, just volatile, and it's just a little bit different market. But all of the suburbs around Michigan, we know that there's 3 million homes in the suburbs around Michigan. We're doing 100 deals a year. There's 3 million homes. Like we can go so much deeper in our own market where we know what we're doing. Why don't we just pull that money and that time and effort and dig deeper into our own market and get some of those deals that we're missing? So that's what we did. That was our philosophy.
Got it. And I remember what the question I was going to ask, just going back real quick, with these creative deals, when you're selling on terms, are you doing, a traditional 30-year note? Is there a balloon payment? If they're going to refinance, are you coaching them in their credit or helping them build their credit profile so that they can eventually cash you out completely? Or is this just the long game with these tenant buyers?
Yeah, it's the long game.
Okay.
It's a 30-year note. There's no balloon payment. We're not coaching them on how to get out of it. We're fine if they do it. There's no penalties. They can pay it off anytime they want. But the reality is we kind of want them there for 30 years.
Got it.
We want to build up and have a couple hundred of these, and it's just paying the bills and it's making life really easy for us.
Love
and
it.
we're not gonna take our foot off the gas. We're gonna grow the wholesaling side for sure, but it's much more fun to grow something when there's a surplus, and it doesn't matter if there's a bad month. You can try things, right?
Right.
So nope, there's no plan to pay it off. There's no prepayment. There's no balloon. It's a 30-year note. We're not trying to discourage them, but if they have the initiative to go out and figure out how to fix their credit or whatever the problem. By the way, we're not selling necessarily to people with bad credit. Sometimes, but we're a lot of times selling to groups who have either they have a lot of cash, but they have no credit, not bad credit, but like they're in a cash industry and they just don't have a lot of reason for credit, or there's just certain groups who have an inherent dislike or distrust for financial institutions, and they prefer to work that way. Yeah. And so it works well for them. They don't want to go get a mortgage. They just don't want to do it.
Makes sense. All right. Well, look, let's get back to how we're actually doing the deals and finding these leads. Okay. So your primary market, tell us about the marketing channels. What does that team look like? The acquisitions team, what does it look like to take down these properties?
Yep. So we've tried a lot. There's very few things we haven't tried in our marketing, but what we are doing now and what we have found to be kind of our pillars of what brings us 95% of our deals is three things: direct mail, pay-per-click, so Google AdWords, and radio. And radio's new for us. We've been doing pay-per-click and direct mail since 2015. Radio, we started about a year and a half ago, but it's working really well for us. The multiple is about 3.5 to 4 to 1 spend to dollar made. And the side benefit is it brings a lot of credibility because the radio stations we're on and the folks whose homes we're going into are listening to those radio stations, obviously, right? And so when we come in and say, oh yeah, like my acquisition guy, one of them is my partner, my business partner. He still runs acquisitions for us. Right. And he's the guy on the radio. So imagine when he goes into the home of this 75-year-old woman who listens to this talk radio all day long in the background of her house. And then the guy who was on the radio walks in, like it makes the sale so much easier. And we buy houses. We're not even the highest bidder, but he's the guy in the radio and therefore he's credible. And so we get the deal. So radio's been working really, really well. So direct mail, PPC, radio, those are the three channels. When the leads come in, we have one person who we call a lead manager. You could call them a setter. She is in Costa Rica, so outside of the States, obviously. And so she's taking these leads, these calls as they come in. She's doing all the phone stuff, right? She's gauging motivation. She's finding out, a little bit about the house, mostly motivation. That's all that matters, right? Bedroom, bathroom, all that stuff's public record. Right. You need to hear the magic. Why do they have to sell? And if they'll give you that, that's great. If they'll tell us what they want for the house, that's helpful. But yeah, she's setting it up. And then we have my partner who runs acquisitions locally. And we have a guy from Texas who we hired about 4 or 5 months ago. So he's virtual and he's running the majority of the appointments. He's running them virtually. If they need to be kicked over to my partner because the person doesn't have email or can't sign electronically or doesn't want to, then my partner can go in. Or if it just looks like it's a little bit tougher one, like maybe it's going to be take a little bit more skill to get that taken down, then he'll take that one too. So they're about half and half probably. We got the virtual guy taking half, my partner's taking about half.
Love it. So it sounds like a relatively small team.
It is. We have a setter. We have virtual acquisition. If you don't count my partner, then that's that. We have dispositions, transaction, and a bookkeeper. So 5 people, not counting my partner. And we're going to do probably $1.5 million this year.
Love it.
Gross
guys.
By the way.
So if you're listening, right, this is entirely doable. And having processes in place, super important, but focusing on the basics, motivation as the primary main source of actually getting these deals under contract. And then just having great marketing, great leads, and a process. Real quick, just give us a quick highlight of, talked about the presentation that you did, your dispositions as a process. I think that you guys, from what I know about the company, make sure that you're very professional. Just share briefly, and this is just on a regular traditional wholesale transaction. And I'm going to say that's not going on the MLS. Just walk us through real quick what that process looks like. Deal signed. What are you doing?
Yeah. So let me just say before I get into this, dispositions is my passion inside of wholesaling. I love it. And I'm on a crusade to convince people to take it more seriously, because I'm absolutely convinced at this point, having done this for so many years and going to these events and talking to hundreds of people, most wholesalers really don't take it that seriously. They think of it as a nuisance, like they have this hot potato that they have to get rid of as soon as possible. However, and they mess it up. And the fact of the matter is, when my company was two people, me and my partner, he would run sales on the front end and I would run dispo on the back end in transactions. We were so good at taking this deal that he already got at a great discount. And then I would go out to the buyers and I would be pumping the price up on the back end. And meanwhile, he would go back on the front end and see if there's anything he could do to reduce it a little bit, right? And so we were getting so good at that. And it's because we weren't treating our business like half a sales process. We weren't going out there and preaching, you got to get it, you make money when you buy. How many times have you heard that, right?
Right.
You also make money when you sell, guys. If you have a bad dispo process or a bad dispo person, they will cost you half of the deal. Half of the deal will be lost because they're terrible. Okay. So your question was, how do I do it? Yeah. When we have this process, it's a 4-step process. We call it the marketing life cycle. When we have a deal that comes into our company, once the contract is signed, it goes over to our dispo guy. He sends it to title or sends it to our transaction person. They send it to title. And then we immediately make a plan for that deal. And you said, let's not talk about the MLS. The MLS is actually part of it, right? And everything doesn't go on the MLS, but the MLS, because what happened in our company is we go on these meetings.
Share that piece too.
Yeah, we'll go into meetings. Like we have once a week meeting where we go through all the properties, right? That's one of the meetings. That's the meeting I go to every week. And the question would always be, well, what's happening on this property? What's happening on that property? Well, what is our plan for the marketing? Did you send it out? How long are you going to wait until you remarket? All this, right? We had all these questions. And I said, listen, here's what we need from my dispo guy. I said, his name's Connor. I said, Connor, here's what I want to do. We are going to decide what's going to happen with this property, when we're going to market it, when we're going to remarket it, what we're going to remarket it at, all these things. We're going to decide day one, and then we'll adjust it if something changes, because as a leadership group, we need to sometimes go in and look at what's happening with this property and what is our plan. And so we make a plan. It's a 4-step process called the marketing life cycle. Day one, we market the property out at whatever price we want. And by the way, my philosophy is we always ask for more than we think we can get. We're not crazy more, but on the high end. Some people argue, no, send it out on the low end and you get a bidding war. And I could talk for 20 minutes on why that's a bad idea.
I'm one of those people, bro. Let's not get into it.
Okay, let me tell you, I'll give you the 2-second version why I don't like it. It can work. Okay? But here's what happens. When you send it out, let's just say you have a property, you bought it for 100, you're going to market it, you think you can get 120, for example. And you send it out at 100, let's just say, because you want it to be low or even 95 or something. You send it out for 100, you get people calling you right away. I'll give you 100,000 for that. I don't need an inspection. I don't need anything. I got the cash ready to go. Let's go. And you go, no, right? It's like, first of all, it's like, wait, why? I said, I'll give you what I want. And then you get into this bidding war and it's like, all right, well, I'll give you 105. Well, this guy said 110. Well, I'll give you 115. Well, now they're saying, all you're doing, in my opinion, with your buyers now is you're creating a lot of aggravation and resentment that you're constantly asking for a price. They offer you the price. You end up selling it for 20,000 more. And they're like, BS, right?
Right.
I think it sets up a very negative relationship with your buyers personally. Now, we set it out too high and our buyers probably silently in their office, they look at the price and go, they're crazy, right? But they don't call us and tell us we're crazy. They just think we're crazy. But the fact of the matter is it's easier to lower your price than to raise it, right? I send it out at 120 and I get nothing. I lower it to 115. That doesn't create any friction with anybody. Okay. They're excited, right?
Okay.
I start at 100 and I raise it to 110, everyone's mad at me, right? So anyways, that's just my little rant. But
no, and that's helpful because and for me, I think that it could sell at maybe 120, maybe a little bit more. I'm going to send it out right just shy of 120 just to be on the safe side and hope to push it up.
Okay, that's not bad.
Higher.
That's not a bad idea. Because, what I don't like though is the people who think they can sell for 120 and they put it out there at 105.
Yeah, no,
they're going purposely way low.
But
everyone gets excited.
I've always been afraid of dropping a price and having people think that something's wrong with the property. So when you said that you'd send it out high, maybe get crickets, and then reduce it, and you're still getting traction on those deals, then that's great. I've always been fearful of wanting to put in people's mind that there's something wrong with this property, therefore it's back out there again.
Yeah. So we don't a lot of times have to lower the price publicly, because what happens is we think we can sell it for 120. We may put it out there for 129, and then we get offers of 125, 122, 121, and then we kind of negotiate within there, and then we sell it to our buyers list. It looks like we put it out for 129 and it's sold. We may have sold it for 122, right? But it looks like to the buyers. But I would rather reduce it still, because the fact of the matter is most properties, we get what we think we're going to get, and we don't have to do a lot of reductions. So it's really not a negative thing. Our buyers, the biggest feedback we get is, I can't believe you guys are selling these for what you're marketing them for. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of times we are, right? But sometimes they don't know we had to reduce it with the 5 or 6 people that were bidding on it, right? So it goes out day one.
The most important thing is that you have your buyers trained and they know what to expect. They know your process because you have a process and you're sticking to it. And I learned that.
Dude, if there's one thing I would just pound into people listening is, you had better get your buyers under control, because buyers inherently try to take control of the process. They always do. Not all buyers, but you'll always have buyers on your list who will start trying to dictate how this is all going to go. And having a strong buyers list, continuously growing your buyers list, and always trying to find new and better buyers is going to keep that from happening, because you have to be able to walk away from a buyer. And if you can't, they do have control, right? They'll know it, right? The minute they start dictating, they'll know it. And so we've told many buyers, that's fine. If that's how you want this all to go, we don't do it that way. So best of luck to you.
Awesome.
And then if they do it too many times, we'll say, just don't bid anymore, because we're not going to work with you. We don't need to work with you. And most buyers can't believe that. They feel like they have what you need, which is the money, and therefore you will jump when they say jump. And man, you better never jump when they say jump, or you'll always be jumping. So anyway, buyers list is huge.
What's those last few cycles? What's the last few parts of the cycle?
So we put it out at a certain price. Then we have a built-in reduction, which I said we don't have to do the lot, but we do have a reduction. And then the next step is MLS listing. But we do put out an email saying this is going on the MLS tomorrow, because we know that most flippers don't want it to be on the MLS. So we'll give them that little scare tactic, something, scarcity tactic, I should say. Like, this is going to go on the MLS if you don't bid on it. And so we get that beats a lot of people out of the bushes. And then we do list it on the MLS at that point. We're not just saying it, we'll really do it. And if that doesn't work for whatever reason, the final step is looking at it as something we're going to purchase ourselves, maybe for a land contract, or maybe we're going to flip it. We don't do many flips, but once in a while. Or is this something we have to cancel? A contract we have to cancel. Now, I will say I would be really remiss if I didn't mention to you guys, I just spoke to someone the other day who's a house flipper. He wants to get into wholesaling, but he won't do it because he said it's unethical. He thinks it's unethical to sign a contract that you're not going to close on, and he thinks it's unethical to not close on a contract, like to cancel it, if it doesn't work out. And the point here is,
it's all day on the MLS. Like
it happens all the time. But I will tell you this, guys, and this was in that video that you've referenced. Sellers only feel like you're screwing them over if you do something they didn't expect you to do or you didn't prepare them for. And so when we sign a contract, 9 times out of 10, the conversation at some point goes something like this: Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I came in here, I was authorized and prepared to give you $100,000 for your house. You're kind of stuck at that 110 price, and I understand why. I get it. I was only planning on paying 100. You want 110, but here's what we're gonna do. Let's sign the contract. I'm going to go to bat for you with my team, and we're going to dial our numbers in. We may bring a few contractors through to just make sure we have all of our numbers set. I think we're going to be able to get to 110. I want to get to 110, but just give me 10 days. Give me a week and a half, and then we're going to go do our due diligence. Like I said, we'll bring a few people through so we can get real clear on our numbers. And in 10 days or less, I will give you an honest answer. I'll either tell you, I'm sorry, I cannot do 110. I tried, but I can't. Or, yeah, we're going to move forward at 110. Now, I anticipate we're going to move forward, but I'll come back within 10 days and I'll give you and at that point, we can just part friends if it doesn't work out. Is that fair? And they'll say, yes. Now you've just gotten permission to cancel that contract if you need to.
That is,
and they're not mad. They're not mad because you told them so. You told them you were going to come back. They're expecting you to give them some feedback, either yes or no. And so when you say no, that's also a time to renegotiate, right? Because they've had 10 days to sort of think the problem was already solved, right? I always tell people it's that phenomenon when you go to buy a car and you're like, okay, you're talking to them and you spend 2.5 hours there and you're signing it and they go, oh, there's also this transfer tax. I didn't mention that. It's another $350. You don't blow the whole thing up at that point. You've got so much time in, but you just go, whatever, let's just be done here, right? It's sort of that mentality. Now, we don't sign contracts knowing full well we're going to reduce them. We don't do that.
Right.
We really do sign contracts that we believe we can make work. But if we can't, and how do we know we can make it work? We send it out to our buyers, right? It goes to our private buyer list. And if there's crickets when we send it out as a reasonable price, there's crickets, we know we got trouble. But if we send it out, we start getting a bunch of offers and people interested, great. We'll just call the seller right then and there, day 2, and say, hey, Mr. Mrs. Seller, I just want to give you some good news. I talked to the team. We've done some more numbers. We're going to be good to your price. We're good to go, right? We'll close in a month. So it's ethical because we are being honest and we are preparing them for a conversation about whether or not we're going to be able to move forward. And you don't get feedback. You don't get pushback, I should say, or on that. You don't get anger.
I love that. And I think you've given even more, context than the presentation that I saw. And, this is great stuff, preparing them ahead of time. And then look, we've talked about a lot with, the team. You have a very relatively small team, but you guys are doing amazing, deal flow, how you've been able to do deals, building that list of tenant buyers, using the Facebook group. This has been great. And I appreciate you so much. We've learned a lot, but I can't let you go without putting you through the lightning round. Are you ready for that?
Let's hear it. Oh, I love the facts.
Look, I got a series of rapid fire questions. You don't know the question. I don't know your answers. So
no, you didn't prepare me for this. So okay, here we go.
Mind. What's one book that's been instrumental to your growth as a real estate investor?
I would say Extreme Ownership, Jacko Willink. It's not a real estate book, but I love that book. It should be required reading.
Yeah. Okay. It's that good, huh? I've heard it.
So good, dude. If you have kids, they should read it. Like it's big. It's huge.
Love it. If you could have drinks or coffee with any one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
All right. I could probably give you a lot of people, but the first person who came to my mind would be Steve Jobs.
Oh, yeah. That goes without
me some Steve Jobs.
Right?
I love me some Steve Jobs.
Last guy told me he dented the world, and I love that. Best advice for someone looking to do their very first wholesale deal?
Start making offers.
There we go.
Just connect people, network, and make offers. Like money is not an excuse.
Love it. Name of the show. What's one mistake on a deal specifically or business in general that if you had a do-over, you would take that do-over?
Yeah. So it was a deal that I was going to wholesale. The last second, the buyer fell out. He bailed. And the sellers had a disabled child. They couldn't have people walking through their house. That's why they went with us. They were counting on us. And so I got a little arrogant, honestly. And we had money available to us and we took the house down. And it was a flip opportunity. It wasn't probably, nobody else wanted it. I only had one buyer, right? So I said, we'll flip this thing. And the mistake I made was I flipped houses for 6 years before I wholesaled. The mistake I made was I gave the flip responsibility to somebody on my team who had never flipped. And I didn't have enough oversight. And at the end of the day, when you talk about contractors taking our money and disappearing, contractors taking the materials and selling them and disappearing, hold time, all this stuff. Like if you just add up it all, we lost $100,000 on that house. And it was my fault as a manager, as an owner, as a leader. I didn't give enough training to the person that I entrusted to do that. And it went poorly, obviously.
Yeah.
It was a high-end house too. That was the other problem. It was a very high-end house.
That's a rough one. The financial goal that you guys have set for your team for this calendar year, I think you've already mentioned it. Was that 1.5?
Yep. 1.5 gross profits. Yes.
Love it. If you woke up tomorrow with $500 million deposited into your account overnight, what's the first thing you would go out and purchase with that newfound money?
Oh my God, that's a great question. Honestly, this is going to sound so, everyone's going to think I'm kind of a shallow guy, but me and my wife have been wanting to get a little convertible sports car. So that's probably what I would do. Honestly, I mean, we could do it. It's just we've been going like, do we really need it? If I had $500 million, I don't care if I need it anymore, right? I'll go out. Yeah, man, we'll do it right. But that's probably what we do.
Love it. Last one, final piece of advice for someone looking to scale their business.
Yeah. That's
I think you're the perfect guy.
That's a big question. Yeah, I love it. It's great. I'm all about it. It's a long answer, but I'll shorten it. The first thing you have to do is you have to know your numbers, number one. I just spoke to someone yesterday who wants to scale, and I started asking him questions. He had no idea what marketing was working, what is return, nothing, right? So you have to know what's working, first of all. Like, you can't throw fire where there's no flame. And so you have to know what's working in your business and what's not working. Once you figure that out, think about what you're doing in your business that's taking up the majority of your time that you don't enjoy doing. And that's probably the first person you have to hire. So the bottom line is you have to know your numbers. You have to hire. And most people, the hiring part is the real hard part because they figure I can't hire until I've got a lot of, big business, but I can't get to that big business until I actually get some help. And so knowing your numbers and hiring, far and away the biggest thing. I wrote a book a couple of years ago called Level Jumping. And I wrote it because in my business, I went along for about 5 or 6 years without much growth. Like I was just sort of staying stagnant. And then all of a sudden my growth hockey stick, it went almost straight up. And so when I give the presentation with that hockey stick chart, people always obviously go, what happened right here? I want to know what you did right here. And I answer the question so many times. I just wrote a book and said, this is what I did. And the book isn't about how to get leads in real estate, right? It's about how to build a company. Like, what does it mean to go from this one-man operation or one-woman operation trying to do everything to actually running an actual business? That's what the book's about. And so, that's what I would say. Know your numbers and start hiring sooner than later. That's the short answer.
Love it. Great stuff. And just quick follow-up to that. Would you suggest, for if it was in acquisitions or a lead manager, that does it work to go out and find someone that is 100% commission? Like if they say, hey, I can't pay for it right now, I just want to get going. 1,000%. I think you should try to hire someone who's 100% commission. It's hard sometimes. And sometimes when they're 100% commission, some of the burden falls back on you to drive leads. You got to make sure there's leads. You can't say, do this for 100% commission. Oh, by the way, we have no leads, right? That doesn't work. You need leads in your business. But the guy that we hired that's virtual, our acquisitions guy, he's 100% commission. And
even still, we can pay a base. We choose to not pay a base because all commission, in my opinion, is always favorable over a base, right?
Right.
But it's hard. My partner, just to give a little bit of a little balance to this, my partner who was originally my acquisitions guy, you've never met someone who's more confident in their sales ability, like borderline arrogant of what a good salesperson he is. But even he admitted, as great as I think I am and as much confidence as I have in myself, that I will always be the best salesperson in the room, I would still always probably want a base if I could get it. Right. Because he's married, he's got a wife and there's other people in his life to consider. But, the unicorn or the goal here is you find that acquisitions person who's maybe single, super driven by money, really good with people and super competitive. And they don't have a huge bill at the end of the month for house payments and cars and kids and all this stuff. And they just want to work and they have a very modest lifestyle, but they're just killer sales. Like, that would be great. Give that person all commission. And by the way, straight commission will always beat commission plus base if you have a company that's thriving. So it is, because we used to tell our acquisitions people, we'd hire and we'd give them the option. There was a point in time where we gave them an option. We said, we'll pay you this base plus this commission or a higher commission, no base. And they always picked the lower one. And then once they were at our company for 90 days and they saw the volume and they started doing the math, they were like, oh, I would have done way better. And they would go, oh, I want all commission now. And we go, no, you have to stick with that for a year. If you pick that, you stick with it for a year.
I've gotten questions. I like that addition. I've gotten questions about, hey, what do you pay? What do you start? Could you give just really briefly 100% commission versus base plus commission? What that would look like?
Yeah, so it's varied. We've tried everything. But our base is usually we ask them typically what they need at minimum. Like what would you need minimum to pay your bills and not be stressed out? And so the answer is different for people. And based on that answer, we'll adjust the commission because we always want to be somewhere in that $3,000 base with a 10% commission. And if there's no base, we usually go up to 12%. And so that's usually where we're playing in that playground. If somebody says they need 4, we still might give them 10%. If they need 5,000, we might go down to 9 or 8, so we're going to calibrate a little bit, but they always do better with straight commission, but they're afraid. They won't bet on my company. They're playing it safe. And when we tell them when they make the decision, whatever decision you make is fine with us, but you can't change it for a year. So you're probably going to come back in a couple months and want to switch. You can't. And so if you want to do that, bet on I want to see someone go, no, I'm going to bet on myself. I'm taking the 12 and I know me, I'm going to kill it. Like those are the people we want. And by the way, I'll say this too, is super important. When you're hiring, I put a lot of emphasis and value on personality assessments. I want to know if I'm dealing with a people person or an introvert. I want to know if I'm dealing with someone who's very self-motivated or needs a lot of guidance. And these self-assessment or these personality assessments, they're not perfect, but I tell you right now, they will give you insight into that person. And for an acquisitions person specifically, let's just say that I'm talking about the DISC now, the DISC assessment, because it's pretty common. If you go to like Tony Robbins DISC on Google, it'll bring up a free thing. Anyway, on the DISC, if you're familiar, and if you're not, just look it up after this conversation. Not you, you probably are familiar, but anyone listening. An acquisitions person is a high D, right? They're driven, they're competitive, they want to win, and the I needs to be high, but lower than the D. Okay, and I've had this conversation a lot recently. That's why it's on my mind. Okay, and those two are the main two that I would be concerned with the salesperson because usually they're not going to have tons of detail. Salespeople tend to be not great with entering things in CRM and being really good, but you want someone with a high D and a high I, but lower than the D. If you flip that and they have like a lowish D, but a high I, they will need to be liked more than they need to win. So they'll go into an appointment and they'll start getting invested in the seller and they'll start feeling bad and they won't make the offer that is right for the company. They'll make a higher offer because they want that seller to like them.
Right.
If you flip that around, you got a high D with the still high I, but high D, they will be good with people and they'll connect and they'll care, but ultimately they want to win. They want to hit their commissions. They want to hit their quotas. They want to crush and they want you to praise them. They want that. So it doesn't make them a bad person, but you need them to want to win more than be liked. And if they want to be liked more than they want to win, they're not a good salesperson.
Great stuff. Yeah. Gold all the way around. Look, this has been great. And I love the conversation, especially for my audience, for the listeners of this podcast, because, you and your partner are wholesalers through and through, believe in this model. I believe in this model. I think that you can have a cash cow that is, passive, and you've built an operation and shown just that. So I really, really appreciate you. Great guest all the way through. Look, I want to ask you, how can people learn more about what you have going on, coaching, anything? Tell us where to follow you at.
Yeah, you can go straight to my website, which is MikeSimmons.com. Makes it pretty easy. You can go check me out there. And I also have a podcast called Just Start Real Estate. So you can go check that out. I've been doing that for about a decade now. Nice. Yeah, that's really it, man. If you guys, I am about wholesaling. I love it. And I'm about scaling it and running it like a business. I have no interest in working 60 hours a week, even if it's for myself. Like, I don't want to do that. I want my time back, right? So I have been able to create, by the way, my team of 5 or 6 used to be 13. running the same size operation. I was just bloated, right? You don't have to have that big of a team. Some of it was ego, right? So we scaled it down, but it takes time and processes and people getting, like my dispo guy's with me for 7 years, right? He knows what he's doing. So, but yeah, you can go to MikeSimmons.com. I love helping people scale their business and get out of the day-to-day and start, sit in the owner's box.
Yeah.
I want you to be in the owner's box, not down on the field running all the place.
Love it. Good stuff. And guys, while you're at it, head over to sendmoreoffers.com. There's nothing for sale there, but just a bunch of great information from all of these guests, show notes, and you can connect with me there. If you have anything in Atlanta, have a deal, want a partner, anything, you can find me at sendmoreoffers.com. Mike, this has been great, man. I appreciate you. I can't wait to keep following along with your journey and see everything that you're doing and crushing. And I'm sure we'll meet up here soon at one of these masterminds or something. In the future.
I'm sure we will, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you having me on. It's been really fun.
Good stuff. As always, guys, send more offers, do more deals. Till next time. Peace.
That's all for this episode of the Send More Offers Real Estate Show with Brandon Barnes. But we know you're craving more knowledge to get yourself ready for that next deal. To schedule a call with Brandon to learn more about how to do deals consistently without seller appointments in a repeatable way, be sure to visit us at sendmoreoffers.com. And be sure to tune in for the next episode of the Send More Offers Real Estate Show.